All right, Isaac here with Operation Outcast Military Ministries. A question. I'll try to do some short videos that answer a typical question. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of research for this. I'm just going to shoot from my Bible school training and give the best answer I can give in 5 minutes or less. Trustworthiness of translations is the question, and specifically related to the King James translation. You'll see a hastily drawn globe right here. And actually, I don't need the whole globe, so I don't know why I drew the whole globe, because really we focus on this part of the world to answer this question. This part of the world that we're familiar with, the Americas, isn't really in the picture, so to speak, for most of this question, because that's not the known world. As far as ancient world goes, this is. So, in answering this question, why does a globe matter? Because archaeology matters in answering this question. Archaeology matters significantly in answering this question, and I'm probably not going to be perfectly precise where I draw on this globe, so you'll have to have a little bit of understanding with me. When the King James is translated, it comes from source documents, or really, like what we're doing is we're translating always from Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew into another language. All translations do this. The idea that the English translation starts with the King James and then is translated from the King James into more modern translations of English is actually a myth. If we were to do Mythbusters, that would be busted. It's actually that all English translations translate from whatever original source documents are available into a common vernacular of the English language at the time of the translation. There isn't actually a single translation of the Bible that's translated by a single person, including the King James. Let's say I have source documents primarily from this region of the world only, whichever region that is, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of Alexandria. Okay, my translation will only take into account the copies of the original text that are located here. But that's not what we have. We actually have copies of the original text out there, copies of the original text over here, copies of the original text over here, copies of the original text over here, so to speak. In other words, there are pockets of translations of the New and Old Testament all over the ancient world. The more modern translations take into account a larger portion of original documents. There's a website, I'll put it in the link below, the Center for New Testament Manuscripts. It's a digitized version of all of the known manuscripts and pieces of manuscripts all over the world. Someone travels with a digital camera to all of these places and takes high quality digital photos of those pieces of manuscript, so you can see a modern day library of every known fragment of the Bible. We're talking hundreds, we're talking thousands and thousands of pieces of the Bible have been recovered. By contrast, any other work of ancient antiquity has less than 100 copies of the original that place it nowhere within 800 years of its original. The Bible has somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 plus fragments and whole copies that date all the way back to within 100 years of the original manuscript. And now we have them from all over. The King James takes into account mostly copies from one of these regions where a lot of copies are found. The more modern translations take into account more copies. This, most people believe, makes their source documentation more reliable. Then the question becomes, what are the translators doing with the originals in their method of translation? That does become another issue. If you look at the front of your Bible, certain translators take into account certain ideas as more important. Some of them translate a complete thought. A paragraph has several lines, and they take the paragraph or a whole idea being communicated and translate it into a new whole idea. Oop. English, Greek. Okay? Some take a line and translate it line by line, leaving the explanation of the lines to the reader or the teacher of the text. NIV, NLT, those are message, those are thought for thought translations. King James, LSB, NASB, ESV are line by line translations as much as they can be. You can't do entirely one or the other, but translations like the NIV are going to add more words in to help clarify what they believe the meaning to be. Hopefully that helps you understand a little bit about translations and how that's done.